That's cool. And we're live. I guess that's what I'm probably going to be saying every time now, considering that we've got one other episode. But you may note, or maybe not, depending on how the post editing goes this time, that we actually have a set and the videos are actually working, I think. So the other thing you might notice if you're looking at the set is that there is an empty chair next to me, and that's very unfortunate. But I did have a special guest planned for today who unfortunately was sick and had to cancel last minute, but that's okay. We will persevere just me, which is fine because I actually prefer drinking by myself. So welcome to the Unhappy Hour. Yeah, so I thought I would start off today's episode by talking, or I guess diving a little bit deeper into me. So, in the last episode, it was like sort of trialing, getting to know me and Lenny, and sort of, I guess, working out how the equipment works. So, like, I've never been on a podcast before. I've watched a bunch of them, but never taken that step to be on one, or maybe because I've never been invited on one. But yeah, so I thought that what's a good way to start off an episode where it's just me and there's no one else here than to talk about the only person on camera. So yeah, I thought I'd like really get into my background, I guess, a little bit, and what led me to here, and what I've sort of done for the past 24 years. I'm 24, by the way, if anyone was wondering. But yeah, I guess to be fair, if it was natural for me to talk to myself for an hour, then that would be also concerning. So I think that, taking some breaks, and if there is some weird cuts in this show, then that's why, because it's really fucking hard to just talk to yourself for an hour. But even though it might appear like I'm alone, if I do keep some of that previous bit in, I am also accompanied by my very cost-effective executive producer, otherwise known as my sister, and she's also going to be in the background with some prompt questions, and maybe she'll occasionally chime in with telling me I'm not looking at the camera or making some weird gestures, which I guess is something that I'm going to improve over the next 100 episodes, hopefully. But yeah, so anyway, to get back into what I was talking about, so just wanted to touch on, I guess, the basics of me. So I went to a couple of schools, public and private, so I kind of know what both of those are like. Admittedly, I did move into public, in my later years. So my intermediate sort of years, were all private at a school called ACG, and that was a bit of an experience. Anyone that's gone to ACG before knows that it is a bit full on for that age group, and I learned so much there that by the time I didn't learn a lot there. To to clarify, I was not one of the smart kids by any means, by any stretch of the imagination there, but I had a crazy realization that when I was sort of failing year 10 math there or whatever, that when I went to my next college was public, Glendowie College, and started doing year 11, which is the first serious papers for those people out in the country. I mean, it's kind of naive me thinking that there's going to be people watching that aren't in my immediate circle, but if hypothetically there are, I was really expecting that to be a lot harder, and it turns out it was basically the equivalent of what we'd learned in year 8 at ACG. So I mean, you would think that in theory I would then have done really well in school at Glendowie College, but I did okay. But to be fair, that is taking into account that I barely showed up, and it's a whole nother conversation, I guess. But yeah, anyway, so I'll skip over school because I feel like at some point I'll probably have friends from both of those schools come on this, because I'm still kind of close with people from both. So I think it would probably be better to get into stories and stuff like that with other people that were there. Maybe give you more of a nuanced view than just mine. So, but yeah, so I'll get into stuff that maybe I probably won't have too many people to talk to about, which is I guess my my career professional sort of journey a little bit, and then what led me to wanting to start a podcast and start a clothing brand. On paper, just for context, right now I'm a business insights analyst for a pretty big company in New Zealand, and I'm not gonna name the company, but I guess if you watch enough of my stuff, I'll probably drop it by accident. But
You
but
dropped it in the last one, bro.
oh, did I actually? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well,
the Lego.
shocker. All right. Well, I work for Countdown, then I guess it doesn't really matter at this point. But yeah, so I do that, but then people might be wondering why I'm doing this on the side, and it's because as much as like my I guess professional career has been fulfilling in some regards, there's like a inherent part of me that is always striving to be creative and like do more creative shit, and like I guess an outlet for that initially was I started making the clothes, and like I really like that stuff. But then just really getting into, I think I talked about this in the last one as well, but just like when I really started thinking about marketing it, I was like, oh well, I actually probably need to be on socials for that. And then there's so much generic bullshit like boring content on that on like clothing companies Instagrams and shit, and I was just like, I probably just like have to build a brand around myself and go the influencer route, and then circle back to the clothes. So I'm kind of trying to do both at the same time. I guess like the focus is always in shot is the clothing brand, because that is like my primary focus. I work on that like per 2 hours, 2 hours a day. So that's what 14 hours a week on top of my normal job, and then all of this other shit that I'm doing now as well. So that's gonna be fun. We'll see how I fit that into my schedule, but yeah. So that's sort of why I'm started to do it. But to circle right back to what I was talking about before, which is like what I sort of did after school. So when I left school, I really had no idea what I wanted to do. I, despite doing like okay academically, like never really fell in love with any academic subjects. So my big dream leaving school was not like most people, like where they went into a degree or whatever and decided on what they were going to do for the next 3 years, and then consequently the rest of their lives, which I guess a lot of people are having a rude awakening, or at least my friends now that have finished their degrees, some of them are having realizations that maybe it wasn't the right path. But besides that, yeah, I never really knew what I wanted to do, so I couldn't commit. So I mean, to be fair, I'm lucky in a lot of senses that I didn't fall into some degree that I don't believe in, because I could have very easily done that. I get very one track minded about stuff, so I'm really really grateful I didn't end up doing some sort of commerce degree or something. But
You.
well, I mean, it's just the truth, isn't it? But no, I don't want to shit talk all of people doing commerce degrees, but I think that
Yeah, especially with one in the room.
well, I mean, like it depends obviously what you major in as well, and there's like a lot of nuance factors. But it's not going to matter for you, Trine, because you're going to be a famous executive producer. So
That's true.
yeah, and you would have got. I mean, it's not nepotism. She's putting in the hours, but yeah. Anyways, so I'm really glad I didn't do that. But I did. But a consequence of not knowing what I wanted to do, I started working in a bar. So I was like, still fresh 18, halfway through year 13. And I started working at a bar called Swashbucklers, which is like a dirty sailor bar, really. If you wanted to put it, I couldn't really put it any other way. But there's something that you've got to love about that place. Love to hate it, I guess. And yeah, so I started working there. Got the job through my cousin who was working there at the time. And yeah, really fell in love with bartending. As I guess any 18-year-old that all you love to do is really drink, and you finally are allowed to go to bars, and then let alone get the chance to serve people in bars, or just like being around alcohol, and that sort of I guess atmosphere at the time was exactly what I wanted. And yeah, so out of school I was like, I had no question about what I wanted to do. I was like, literally, if you look at my year 13 like book or whatever, it says like, where do you see yourself in 10 years? I said bartending somewhere tropical. So I was really all my dreams were at that point were to be a bartender full time somewhere in the sun. And looking back now, it still does sound like that would be pretty good, to be honest. But obviously, like, it's one of those things that you when you're in the bartending world, it's very different to looking in it from the outside perspective. So but yeah, so I was working as a bartender at Swashbucklers. Started working full time as soon as I finished school, because my mom decided to charge me rent, which was not not the norm around my friend group. I guess a lot of them went to uni, and then there was a lot that didn't as well. But yeah, I I had to start paying rent, so I was like, you know what, fuck it. I found a place that was cheaper. So my mom, for context, mom was charging me like $150 a week, and I was like, uh, fuck you, mom. I'm gonna find somewhere cheaper. So I found somewhere that was $100 a week, and it was sharing a room, with one of my best friend's aunt. So I actually basically ended up moving in with his family, pretty much. Not like fully, because it was like an apartment, but his mum only stayed there on like a couple of days in the week, because she was working a corporate job, but also like lived up north. So yeah, so I was sharing a room, two single beds in one room. That was a very intimate experience. You get to know someone quite well when you spend that much time with them. And I've lived with them many times over the years. So I guess it's a testament to how good the relationship is, because I still would live with them. There's like, obviously, I think if you live with anyone, there's things that annoy you, but I think that like in the scheme of people that I could live with, he's like one of the top ones, and I think that's just a testimony to a testament to the friendship. So, but yeah, so I lived there for a bit, right out of school, paying $100 a week, sharing a room, and then eventually got an offer through one of my flatmates. Well, I say one of my flatmates, but at the time was just someone I worked with at Swashbucklers. But we'd got pretty close, because I think like you work hospo, and you kind of as a consequence of working hospo, you're every shift you spend together, you're through those like really tough shifts together, and then you're all on weird schedules. So you go out midweek, really really late hours, rather than like the weekends, like the people that get like normal jobs, I guess. So you just become really close. And yeah, I got invited to live at their place, and it was like another really small room, but it was very cheap rent. It was like 100. I was paying 150 to live there, but it was a completely crazy experience. I wouldn't trade for anything. That place was insane. It's for those that know, called the Rosebank Resort, which is in Rosebank Road. And yeah, there's some of my best friends to this day were flatmates there. And actually, I guess like all basically everyone that lived there, I'm very good friends with. And yeah, it was an interesting point in my life. So hopefully I'll have some of those people on as well. So we can talk about more of that stuff. Again, I probably don't want to go into too many of the stories just by myself, but yeah, just to give you that sort of context, I worked at so left school, started bartending full time, worked at Swashbucklers for a bit, moved in with a bunch of people that I worked with at Swashbucklers and some of their friends, and then after that I went into I realized that Swashbucklers was probably like not what I wanted to do. I wanted to keep moving up in the bartending world. So it's sort of like a theme for me, I guess. Is just like I got really really bored, I guess, of what I was doing there, and I was looking for that next step up. I think, which is it's just inherent for anyone that I guess spends enough time doing the same thing. So like, I thought that bartending was going to be my be all and end all, and then I sort of started working there. I guess like got really good and really good at what I was doing, and then wanted to move on to something else. Then I got into cocktail bartending, and I did that at Euro for a bit before it closed and after it was good. So it was like sort of in the middle spectrum. Still a really upper class, like nice restaurant, but not quite as renowned as it was initially. And yeah, so I did that for another 6 months or so before I started applying for jobs. And actually through my cousin's girlfriend at the time, she was working at a bank, and they were looking for people to work in the call center, and she managed to get me in the door basically. So I got an interview there, and it's embarrassing now looking back, but I showed up in my suit, not really sure what to do. My first sort of like shot at corporate. I was still quite young. I think I was 19 at the time.
Wasn't it your ball suit?
Yeah, probably was my balls. I didn't really have any other suits, but I thought I looked good in that one. So, anyways, yeah, show up in my ball suit for that interview, and I must have said something right. And I guess that's like a testament again to the people skills you learn in hospital. Like there's a lot of valuable skills there. So yeah, took that, started working in a call center. And yeah, I worked. This is at a bank called Heartland Bank, so I was there for I think 3.5 years or so. But yeah, basically started in the call center, and then sort of every 6 months had some sort of progression. So moved up through the call center. Um, and yeah, at my early days there were a bit of a mess and a blur because I was still living at the flat with the bartenders that I knew and my good friends from Rosebank Road. So yeah, that was a that was an interesting mix. Working a normal 9 to 5 corporate, and I was probably doing late hours as well because I was trying to grow in that company. But then also coming home to parties and very different schedules and drinking every night type of stuff. So I really feel like I got that whole cram study university experience, I guess, if you will. But yeah, eventually that did become a bit much when I started to try, and I quit drinking. So that's probably was one of the biggest catalysts. I was working. It might not look like that now, so just bear with me. But at the time, I was quite bad with the drinking. So I guess I was like, it's time to clean up my act and like start taking my work more seriously. So I decided that I was going to move to a small flat with some of the people from the flat that were also on the same buzz. So that's when I moved in with Sam and Ashley. And yeah, we moved to a place. I think it was Avondale Road, from memory. Yeah, Avondale Road, 152 Avondale Road. I probably shouldn't drop the address, but you can check it out, I guess, if you really want to. It's really nice views there. Yeah, I think they call it Tifari Farnell. That was the name of that flat, I think. Yeah, I guess like every flat has kind of like a name, but yeah, that was that one. And that was a cool experience. I guess I just sort of like dived more into work. I was doing crazy hours and trying to grow, and it was like I was that weird guy that was always working really late in a call center, which people were really confused about. Like my colleagues were like, oh, you should go home early, and I was just like not feeling it. And I don't know if that was the healthiest approach, to be honest. in retrospect, I don't know if I would have done that again, but I guess I just like sort of applied that like working 18-hour days mentality and like just always doing something in hospo to the corporate setting, and it turns out that like the corporate setting is actually like pretty chill. You don't actually have to work that hard. It's like hard work. It's like it's quote unquote brain work, but I don't even know if that's true, really, to be honest. So I was doing that for a while, and went through a few positions at the bank before finally going into what I'm doing now, which is data analytics. But yeah, I think that all of my time in corporate has led me to the realization that I need to start something for myself. I guess like I don't want to work for someone for the rest of my life, and I'm not going to get rich doing that. Not that money is everything, but I think everyone can agree that money is a pretty important thing in determining peace, I suppose, because you want to have at least financial independence, I would say, which is what I'm sort of striving for now. And I've never been someone that's good with money. Anyone you ask can attest to that. So yeah, that's been a big shock to the system. I could quit drinking. That was fine, but even though I am drinking again now, but I did that for like 2 years, 2 months, 17 days, something like that. And who's counting? Yeah, so I can do that if I really want to, and I can do the wake up early. I can do the running shit. I can do the fitness stuff. Like I can do any of that stuff, but the finance stuff has always been my biggest struggle. Like if you could see I did think I talked about this a little bit on the last one, but if you could see the podcast setup on this one, it's I clearly still have an issue. Clearly, I could have made this cheaper to start with before it really took off, but I instead decided to go all in. But that's kind of how I am. I'm just I baby steps in the budgeting scheme of things. But yeah, so that's kind of like I guess a bit of context around my story. Hopefully there'll be like some questions I can answer, and I think the more guests I have on, you'll probably get to know me better. Like, I've got quite a diverse group of friends, and like, I sort of talk through the stages of my life up until now, but I can really draw from different parts of that, and you can sort of learn what my mindset was like at different points. Not that I think that it's changed too much. I think that I'm still the same in some regards, but definitely like I think your goals shift over time, and it's like interesting. I guess growing older, I think that it's something that everyone sort of realizes. But yeah, that's sort of my story, and I guess just look to my executive producer for some notes on the next phase, or we can just cut it here for a second. Yeah. So what's next? My sister.
Have a sip break.
A sip break. All right, I'll take a sip. Break. Whatever. I think maybe I should make another drink at some point. I have only had one. I just feel bad drinking by myself. I shouldn't. I think it's mainly because it's recorded. It's like
Well, that's gross.
I don't. It's no. It's definitely just because of the camera. I just feel like it's like a guilty thing. Like I don't want to fucking like see myself. I don't want to have to watch it back and people be I can just see this in my next therapy session, just like being like, so how's the not drinking going? And it's like, okay, I drank by myself that 1 hour. Okay, it was for a podcast. It was for business. It wasn't for me. Okay, I really tried to outline that. Like I'm in the description for my episodes, I probably put the same like. It's for the people, yeah, exactly. Like for the audience, I'm reliving my bartending days. I'm reliving them. And that's what people want to. That's what people want to see. It's entertainment. It's what it is. It's what it is. Someone else's life's a mess. It's entertainment, and we've seen that all over. You go any influencer in LA, that's sort of like the a lot of them are getting a bit more positive now, I will say. I don't know. Maybe an interesting question to I feel like I'm talking to no one, but I am probably talking to no one. But yeah, drop in the comments. If God forbid there is some of those, I'd really love to know what kind of people you guys are watching. Like what's like what are you watching on YouTube? Do you watch YouTube? Is my audience more on TikTok? Because I'm trying to make content for everything, and it's hard not to think that it's cringe and I'm some douchey vlogger, because the reality is that I make like 30-second vlogs a day, and I'm starting to notice it. I'm starting to feel it. Like I pull my camera out. I'm just like recording my food. I'm that fucking guy at the restaurant now, just like taking a snap of my food. Like, what's that for? It's like, yeah, it's for social media. That's what it's for. Today I went to a bar for the first time in a long time, and I'm starting a new series now, which is called On the Rocks. Now all of a sudden I'm reviewing bars. I had no business reviewing bars. I'd fucking asked the waitress if I could record today. Who am I? What the fuck happened to me? I was like sitting there waiting for the best table. I literally stayed for one drink, and I like would have been so annoying probably to the side. I was like trying to get the front table. She's like, oh, I'm sorry, you can't have the front table. Like this lady who's got it first. I was like, oh, no worries. Like, is it cool if I just film the view first though? Who asks that? Who in their right mind's asking that? But I guess that's me now. And yeah, so I asked if I could film the bar or whatever. I really don't know what she thinks of me, to be honest. I don't know that I should care. I don't really care. I think it's more just like I used to be a server, so thinking about like what I would have thought in a server's position is really funny. Just like, who is this douche? Who is this douchebag that thinks that he's a vlogger? He thinks he's famous, And she's right, I have fucking 12 followers. I have 12 subscribers. See, it's not even right. I'm too old. I don't even know what the term is anymore. Yeah, I have 12 subscribers on YouTube. I got fucking 11 followers on TikTok. I'm really fucking blowing up. It's to the moon, baby. The only platform I'm doing okay on, and when I say okay, that's still terrible. I got fucking 84 followers on Instagram. I 84. That is good for my channel. So, in the spectrum of things, it could be better, but I've been told consistency is key, so I'm going to keep talking to myself for an hour every week in the hopes that eventually I pick up an audience. And that's the plan. I can understand now. I was having a conversation with my mom earlier today, and she was basically saying like, what do you do? I feel like she's almost very concerned about what I'm doing, like putting so much of my life out on the internet. And I really want to just be like, you don't get it, mom. Like I'm trying to make something of myself. But then if you look back at like the objective evidence that she has to work with, she's right. It's hard to argue with someone when you haven't made it yet. I guess I could argue that there's some vision component to it, but who am I fucking kidding? I have no idea what's gonna come of this. By all means, I could get drunk on one of these episodes to say something and not have a job anymore. So, I guess in the scheme of things, a lot could go wrong from this. But I am choosing to lean into the positives. Yeah, that's a bit of a tangent. That's a bit of a tangent about what's going on with me right now and how I feel about influencers. I guess I never really thought I would be one, and now I'm realizing that it's just the best way to market products. So now that is me, which is ode to joy. I guess it's all fun, but yeah, I'm gonna keep drinking. I'm gonna keep drinking because that's all I can do to get over this new self-image that I've projected. But yeah, so I have another thing. I'm going to talk about the set a little bit. It's a bit interesting. This is the first episode, might as well. So, I don't know if anyone recognizes this. Again, still probably just talking to myself, but don't know if anyone recognizes this bad boy. This one is from my one of my first shoots for S.AD Collection. So, is actually kind of a funny story with that, to be honest. I had this idea, right, where I was like, oh, what's like a cheap thing that I could do to promote the brand? Like, what can I do to promote the brand that is gonna have is gonna be cheap and is gonna be like go viral potentially. I was thinking going viral, but it did viral for me. It got fucking 6 likes or something, so it's a great success. But yeah, I was like, oh, what could I do? That you do that green screen shit all the time. Like, wouldn't it be really cool if maybe I do something with a green screen? And my photographer had this idea of like spray painting the logo, the sad face, and I was like, that's a really good idea. So I was like, I'm gonna commit to this, and I was like, okay, what can I do to hang it? I need to find some sort of frame, like maybe like some sort of mirror would be cool. And turns out mirrors are really fucking expensive. So I went to K Road with not much knowledge around what the op shopping market was like, and I was, sort of walking up and down looking for cheap mirrors and op shops, and it turns out they don't exist. Especially not this fucker. You might think this looks grand, and that's because it is grand. This thing costs like $150 or something. Yeah, I spent $150 on an old mirror because that's the thing that I think a lot of people don't realize about furniture and stuff is like when it gets to like especially some of the op shops on K Road. It's no longer second hand. It's vintage. it's it's an original original piece. So that's sort of what we ended up with here. But I thought this was the first thing I'd seen all day, and I had to go to the shoot the next day. So I was like, you know what, fuck it. I'm gonna have to commit to it. So I bought this, and that's not even the funny part. The funny part is I bought this thing. I take it to the place. It's all good and well. We're working out how to shoot it. I had like some green paper or whatever that I stuck over the top of this, and I was like spray painting that. So, that's why the image doesn't look exactly like this. And if you've seen what I did on that, I sort of for the image, what I've done is I've like put the Balenciaga apology story. So I'll go into a bit more detail on that, but yeah, so there's like an image behind the apology story behind, and then there's the sad face that I'd supposedly spray painted on. But I've since spoken to my photographer, and he's told me that in post, unfortunately, it didn't work out taking the green screen out, so he had to draw the fucking smiley face on, with the pen tool. So, this really is just to represent that I actually did spray paint the thing, even though that might not be how it looks on the page now. And I was really happy. I thought it looked a little artificial, but I was like, oh, I guess that's just what happened in post. But no, it turns out that they couldn't use the footage. So, yeah, that's what it looks like now. I go into the Balenciaga story just for the context, but circle back to that. So, basically, there was like this whole story post thing, apologizing for some recent drama that Balenciaga had been involved in. So I don't know if you know, but basically they had like this campaign shoot where there was kids wearing like not wearing kids with like teddy bears that were wearing BDSM stuff, and that on its own would have been pretty fucking weird. Balenciaga, it's just like that on its own would have been enough to get cancelled, but no, that's not why they got cancelled. They're a big brand. They could have fucking worked in some creative bullshit to get out of that, but no, the reason they got cancelled is because they had a very famous case. They had some documents from a very famous case. I think it was Wayne versus Roe is what it's called. Basically it's like a very famous like what constitutes child pornography case, and they had these scattered in the background. You gotta fucking question what the artist was thinking there. You know, there is no legitimate reason that should have been in the shoot. It's not like whoopsie, just dropped in, you know, just dropped in some fucking court documents from a famous case that happened like 40 years ago. You know, no, that's just not realistic. So yeah, and then they come up with this apology story, and I guess like my thing was like I was like, wanted to round on the edge. I didn't want to make it like a sponsored post or whatever, and you know, like let's be real, my audience is so small that it probably made fuck all difference. But I wanted to let the kids know that we fucking stand against Balenciaga because fuck, you know, that was, you know, a terrible creative decision, and I think really indefensible if I'm being honest. But yeah, I heard some stuff recently. Apparently the creative director was like the hardest time in his life, and you know, as it should be. And then now he's really gone back to his roots and is working on just the clothes. So I guess stay tuned for whatever they have next. But in my mind, I don't think you can really come back from that with just an apology post. So hopefully they do something more than that. I know that they made a donation, but really at that point, like their first reaction was to blame the creative agency they were using, and like it's like, come on guys, there would definitely be an approvals process. So there's just really no legs to stand on there. But yeah, let's move on to the rest of the set. So yeah, not every part of the set is going to have a talking point like that. Just so you know, we're going to walk through each of the bottles. That we're going to have a life story, but no. And the other thing that I wanted to point out was the sign here, the Hugh's Place sign. So my bar, this one is actually gonna have a story. So just, you know, I don't know what I just said, but yeah. So my bar, I always had a dream when I was bartending, and I guess still now, to run my own bar. I wanted to start a bar, and I didn't know what to name it. And my flatmate and good friend at the time, Jack. When I say at the time, my good friend Jack. Came up with the idea to call it Hugh's Place. So it's like whose place, Hugh's Place. And Hugh was my nickname for context. And Hugh was my nickname because I used to make really shitty jokes at the bar all the time, really bad, poor taste jokes. Not poor taste, but just bad jokes. And yeah, so I was nicknamed Mr. Humor Bartender, or Hugh Mer Bartender, Hugh M Tender. And you might be able to see that in the letter there, which is from another one of my flatmates, Elliot. But yeah, so that's how I got the name Hugh. And then obviously Jack came up with the Hugh's Place thing, Hugh's Place. And then one of my other flatmates, Jamie Harris, who's I think I talked about her a little bit in the last one. She does tattoos, so all of my tattoos are her, from her. But yeah, she was doing a lot of creative stuff at the time. And yeah, she painted that as a present, which is why it's still there. And I think that is like the logo that I'm going to use when I do finally open that bar, because I am going to do that and someday. So this is like the start of that, and sort of the idea behind the bottles is like I wanted to every week put a new bottle on the bar, and slowly the bar's going to grow as the episodes grow. And then, you know, obviously we're going to drink some, so there's going to be some sort of rotation, but I'm going to try and not finish the bottle, which can be a challenge for me. Hopefully not on a solo episode, but yeah, it can be a challenge for me sometimes. But yeah, so hopefully this bar is going to grow. And for context, the one that we added this week was in honor of the guest that didn't come. So we will drink this at another date, but this is the Scapegrace Black, which is one of Will Chisholm's favorite drinks. So when he is better, you know, because it is one of those things you don't really want to do. You don't really want to do if you're not feeling well. A podcast is the last thing you want to do. Just fucking condensed talking. Like you can't even fade into the background of that. Like you have to be active. So I get it. So yeah, we'll be drinking the Scapegrace Black. And I'll probably make some cocktails. I think that's something I want to do on this show as well. I want to try and start making like doing like cocktail segments at the beginning, like as part of the opener. So maybe each episode I'll do a different cocktail just to start with. I think it'll be impractical to do that ongoing until finally we get a budget where we can have bartenders. But at this point, where it's me and my executive producer who does not know how to bartend, I think that it just makes sense probably for there to be one cocktail at the beginning and then we drink G&Ts because that's what I like to drink, or maybe rum and dries, well, depending on the day. Also down here got we're actually not sponsored by East Imperial, but if East Imperial wants to sponsor at a later date, we've been repping you from episode 1, so really just trying to keep that in the, it's not in the highlight, but we can move that up, that's completely up for debate. And this here, the last thing probably I want to talk about, maybe the second last thing I want to talk about. So this is a coupe glass, which is actually the coupe glass that I stole from Euro, that I still have and is one of my most prized possessions. And this thing is my tattoo. So I got this glass. I liked it so much that I got it tattooed on my leg, and now it sits as the odd glass out in my bar. And I think I'll probably take this with me and probably be a display piece. So you look, it's like fucking beautiful. I don't know how well you can see that. Yeah, I think that it's like a fucking beautiful glass, and like I know there's something about drinking a cocktail out of something like this that is just really changes the game for me. And yeah, the last thing, I really just want to unplug this, but I know it's not a wireless mic, so I'm just going to put this down for a second. The last sort of few things. This bad boy here, I don't know if you heard that, but this book here, The Craft of the Cocktail. So this is a Dale DeGroff classic cocktail book, and this was a gift from someone I worked with at Swashbucklers, Sam, and she's kind enough to give me her personal copy of it with a really nice note, and then she's also like put little tabs on the cocktail she likes the best, like recipes to try and stuff, and like different things to pay attention to. So this one's been a real lifesaver, and I think a bar isn't really made perfect. Obviously, with technology these days, you could just look it up on your phone, but there's something sentimental about having this classic book, and obviously from the legend himself, Dale DeGroff. Just all around. So everything in this bar kind of has like a bit of a story, I guess. Not everything, but the bottles have stories. I just can't remember them. The ones that are empty, anyway. But yeah, I'm gonna put this back now, so I'm gonna put the mic down. And then I'll make myself a drink, and then we can get into the next segment. If I do decide to put this in, I'm drinking the Roku Gin, again, gift from Sam and Ashley. Much love, you guys. My Christmas present from them. And it's been really fucking smooth, to be honest. I really like this one. Would recommend. Also, the bottle. This looks fucking sick, so I'm probably... If you see this as a staple in my bar, just don't take note of how empty it is, because it's not going to I'm not topping it up every time, is what I want. I'm trying to highlight. There's not a new bottle. It's the same bottle. I just want people to know that the levels might change, but it's the same bottle. Okay, I'm not drinking it every day. Okay, just wanted to highlight that. Welcome to Drink ASMR.
No.
Oh yeah. All right, and what's the prompt, Trine?
Okay, so you've got fashion designer, influencer, musician, or you can do your diet journey.
Well, I mean, I kind of covered off all the other stuff. Yeah, okay, well, something that my executive producers brought up frequently with her friends, apparently, which, to my much to my disdain, is my dieting journey. So, fuck it, I might as well get into it, if people are interested. I don't really care to not share, so, yeah, if you've known me for a long time, you probably know that I've gone through a lot of different diets, some of them crazier than others. So I started with like a pretty just unhealthy all Macca's diet, and that was more out of laziness. Really, didn't really have. Any people say I didn't have time to cook. I mean, like I definitely had time to cook. I mean, I wasn't really doing it. I was drinking in the other time, but I was busy enough to not want to cook, And so I was ordering Macca's a lot, and I've probably, honestly, if you look at my Uber Eats, it's disgusting. I'm probably Max's best customer, which is just really, and it's saying something because I haven't been able to order from there for like 6 months or something like that, and it's probably longer than 6 months. Actually, probably like 8 months now. But anyways, I'll get into that at the end of this. But yeah, so Macca's was my main meal of choice for a long time. But I did also alternate in, when I felt like eating fresh, Subway. It's there was some healthy choices in there. Not really. Just to eat a lot of roast shop. Um, yeah, pizza. Not really pizza actually. I don't really like pizza for some reason. Kind of controversial take, but you'll find out why that I don't like pizza. So, anyways, yeah. So I did that, and then after. Hmm?
Look at the camera.
Okay. Fuck. Honestly, looking at the camera is really hard because it's not like a natural. It's not natural. Like for the chair. You know what I mean? Anyways, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try look at the camera more because apparently I'm not doing a good job of that. And looking around the room all the time when there's no one else in the room is just fucking. I like to think I'm talking to it's a live audience. People that actually want to see me talk, but no, there's no one here. So I'm gonna reiterate again. I am here by myself, other than my executive producer who's telling me to look at the camera more. So I'm looking at the camera. Whatever. I can look at the camera. You think I can't? I'm gonna do it. I'm looking at the camera. Yeah, so that was one of my diets. That one's, I think a lot of people go through that diet, that phase, if you want to call it that. I don't like to call it a phase, I like to call it the happy times of my life. But anyways, takeaways were out, and I was like, you know what? I feel like shit, man. It might be the takeaways, not the booze I'm drinking every night. It might be the takeaways, though. Could be the takeaways, because, fuel in, energy out, etc., etc. So I was like, you know what? Let me take it back to my roots. Let's try a different kind of diet. So most normal people would think, fuck it, I'm gonna cook. That seems practical. But you got to keep in mind at this point in my life, I didn't think I had any time to spare, which is laughable now. But at the time, I was a busy man. I needed every ounce of efficiency I could with my meals. So my solution to that was I traded out the Maccas and the fast food that was making me feel like shit, and I traded that out for all of the nutrients you require in a diet. Every part of the nutrients, but double the efficiency and a quarter of the price. And you ask, how do you do that? It's a little thing I like to call Huel. Okay? This was a mistake looking back. It was a mistake looking back. But I did it for 2 months, 3 months. I drank liquid meals. Huel's a liquid meal. So Huel stands for human fuel, if you're wondering. And you probably won't, but it stands for human fuel. And they don't recommend replacing your full diet with it. But as far as I was concerned, it's got more nutrients than Macca's, so fuck it, why not? So yeah, I was drinking this shit, 3 times a day, probably twice a day. I was still unhealthy. I probably only drink it twice a day. So my whole diet, I literally in the mornings, I would go into work sometimes, and I would mix my Huel with I'd have the 2 scoops of Huel. It's kind of it feels like it's almost like a protein shake, but it just tastes nothing. It tastes like shit compared to a protein shake, and that's saying something. But I actually like this protein shake now, and maybe it's because I drank so much Huel. But anyways, 2 scoops of Huel, and then I'd chuck my fucking instant coffee mix on top of that, and that would be what I'd have for breakfast. That was yeah, and that was because before that, I was having Macca's and a liter. No, not a liter. Yeah, actually no, it probably was a liter. I was having 2 500 ml energy drink cans a morning. So I was drinking a liter of fucking Blue V every morning, and I traded that for human fuel, which is just liquid meals mixed with instant coffee. And on the outside in, I can see how you think that sounds crazy and that is unhealthy, and you would be right. And if that period of my life was not enjoyable. But I am, as I said, one-track mind, very persistent, and I was able to keep that up for 3 months. Let's keep that up for 3 months, and that was hard.
I was worried you were gonna lose the ability to chew.
Yeah, well,
every week.
I mean that's a fair concern, to be honest. But anyways, so I did that, And you might think, oh damn, like that's pretty out there. No one really gives that a fair crack. And I can tell you why they don't do that, because, obviously my personal experience is not positive. But you know what? I was like, okay, all of this Huel and booze is not making me feel better. And why is that? Huel instant coffee and booze seems I'm getting all the nutrients I need. What's wrong? I was like, fuck it. Maybe they're right. Maybe I need to choose something. So, most people would be like, okay, that seems reasonable. Let's go into like you should just, eat 3 meals a day, make it like reasonably healthy. Look at the food pyramid maybe. But no. No, old ad was like, no, let's fucking Huel's not working. You know what? I still can't or don't want to for some reason. And let's be really clear here. The reason that I didn't want to spend money on food is because I was spending money on other things, and it wasn't a lack of finances. It was a lack of accurate or good financial management. But yeah. So I decided, instead of drinking Huel, uh, 3 times or twice a day, I was instead going to intermittent fast and eat once a day. So yeah, I went straight. My transition was straight from Huel, liquid food, to solid food, but fuck all of it. I was eating once a day, and yeah, it's called OMAD, which is 1 meal a day. And I did that diet for a while as well. And I remember vividly during this period that I would because I was in an office situation where there was snacks around all the time, and I would put those snacks in front of me, and I called it "the temptation is key." It was one of my quotes. I used to have that fucking little donut or whatever sitting on the corner of my desk. I used to fucking look at that donut all day. 1 meal a day. I was like, I can't eat it. I can't eat it. And I'd take it home at the end of the day. In that hour, which is the craziest thing about that diet, is that like you can't even eat that much in that hour because your stomach is reduced in size so much that you're full so quick. But that seemed like a good plan to me. So I did that for a bit. Naturally, why am I still not feeling good? It just doesn't make sense. It's just illogical to me. There is no, can't be the booze. Can't be the booze. Can't be everything else. Maybe it's the diet. Maybe it's the diet. Probably in part this time, maybe it was the diet. Okay, maybe for the past two examples it was the diet. But you know what? I went back to my roots a little bit, but I did it with a twist this time. The next diet I tried, and got to keep in mind that there was no normal eating in between this. This was all in succession. So it was liquid diet, OMAD, and then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give fucking pescatarian a swing. So I was like, you know what? It's the processed meats that I'm eating that's the problem. So I'm gonna go to fish. But the issue is that I didn't, like a normal person, go to normal fish. I went to processed fish. I was eating fish burgers, fucking, every meal, fish burgers, and I was eating a lot of like. When you're pescatarian, it's a really loose definitions, but you can still have loaded fries. So I was eating, fish burgers and loaded fries. That was my pescatarian diet, and admittedly, I only did it because someone dared me that I couldn't do it. But again, still fast progression. Boom, boom, boom. I can do that, no trouble. So yeah, actually, no. To be honest, actually, it wasn't probably quick. There was probably a period in between that, after the liquid diet. Sorry, after OMAD, 1 meal a day, where I was like, I'm just gonna go back to just eating takeaway. So I probably went back to Macca's then, because I was like, I feel worse than I did when I was eating Macca's 3 times a day, which maybe makes sense in retrospect. And then so I traded that diet, and I was like, oh, I'll just go pescatarian. But really what that meant, as discussed, is loaded fries from kebab shops and fish burgers. So I've had a lot of fish fillets in my time, and they are the worst burger from Macca's, but you better believe it, it was still a staple of my diet. So yeah, so that happened. And then, yeah, pescatarian. Again, probably not the best move for me. Maybe if I did it properly, it would have been fine. But I'm proud to say I've never tried to be vegan, because fuck that. And I've never tried to be vegetarian because I just, as a person, deeply I don't know, I don't like vegetables or fruits, which is a weird thing that a lot of people that know me think is weird, and maybe now the other 4 people that watch this that don't know me think is weird. But yeah, I don't like them. I don't know why. It's maybe it's like I would like to say it's from birth, but it's never been my thing. Anyways, so now we've come full circle on the diet front, and I am no longer any sort of whack diet by choice. So actually, I guess there was like an in between period that I'll talk about. So like I sort of was like I realized that I was being dumb for those earlier years of my life, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna actually like seriously work this out, because when I started training, I was like, okay, I need to be really intentional about what I'm eating, and I still wasn't feeling good. So I was like, okay, there was a period where I was like, doing like the chicken and rice and different variations of that every day just to bulk, because I was like really skinny from doing OMAD and pescatarian and liquid diet. So I'd really lost a lot of weight at that point. So I was trying to gain that back, which was really not that hard for me because apparently that's just my body type. But yeah, so I gained all that weight back pretty quickly. I was eating like basically just I was doing meal prep. I was just eating like rice, protein, and I was eating vegetables, which I really fucking hated still. And then after that, I did like a sort of like carnivore diet. Some could say I'd been watching too much Rogan or whatever, and they'd be right. That that's a pretty fair assessment of the situation. It worked for Rogan. It worked for a couple other people on his show. It must work for me. And honestly, I will still say that that is the best I felt in my life. But I decided that it's not easy to acclimate to society when you're only doing that. So it really limits your options, and especially for me with someone who's got very limited options now, because I found out last year, halfway through last year, me and my sister both found out that we're celiac, so it means we can't have any gluten, which, now when you look back at that whole journey of like crazy diets, it's like, oh, I was feeling shit, and most people would say it's the alcohol, and now I can firmly tell you, fuck you, it's not the alcohol, it is the gluten. Okay, it's the gluten. It's because I was drinking beer at the time, and terrible for you, terrible the stuff. So stick to the hard stuff, and don't cut that. Stick to the hard spirits, um, and yeah, that's my message. So keep trying, for all those people out there that are suffering. You can keep trying diets, but I would seriously recommend working out of maybe it's gluten. Gluten might be the problem. Gluten might be the problem. But I also don't want to be that guy. So maybe it's just you're an alcoholic. So just think about that. Um, but yeah, so I found that out, and now that's really really fucked up my life, because I can't get takeaways anymore. I had to cut takeaways out overnight, which was really fucking stressful, and I can't eat out most places without being that annoying guy. It's like, hey, do you have a gluten-free menu? I really fucking hate my life. It really sucks. I mocked those people for a long time, and working in the service industry, now it's really come full circle, and I have to be that guy, and I really hate it. It's really something that, and I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really like beer that much, but not being able to drink it pisses me off. It does. I wanna. I don't really like beer, but I still want to drink it now. When I see other people having a cold beer, I'm like, that looks nice now, even though I wouldn't have enjoyed it that much back in the day. And there's other things I enjoy better. It's just still like, fuck, I can't have that now. So that's a thing. Yeah, that's pretty stressful, but yeah, in the general scheme of things, it all makes sense full circle. Is what I'm trying to say. Is like, yeah, I did all these crazy diets, and then it ended up leading to the truth that I was a celiac, and now I'd like to say I feel the best I've ever felt. I'm on probably another weird diet right now. I mean, it's not weird in a lot of senses compared to my other diets. Like, it's very like intentional, but if you've seen my daily vlogs, you see maybe my shakes and a few of them. Those consist of egg white, protein powder, and blueberries, and that's like not really. I mean, the egg whites and stuff is literally just protein content. Like, I'm really focusing on like hitting that protein goal every day, because being like not that heavy, like, it means that I kind of like, if I eat too much protein, like, I'm gonna go over my calories for the day, and it's a whole nother thing. So I can get into that probably in another podcast I'm gonna have when I have Will on. He's a personal trainer, and he probably want to talk more about like the fitness side of things. But yeah, I will say though that it does taste like pretty good. Like, the egg white protein shake is pretty chill, and I got like some advice from a doctor that said that it was chill. I mean, and I say a doctor, she's like just started her residency, but she's pretty qualified, I would say. Like, she's a very smart lady, and always has been. So shout out Alicia Sethi for sorting out my diet. That was much appreciated. Yeah, but that is my crazy diet experience. I don't know if we have to go to ChatGPT yet. I think that
I think I found a better question.
okay,
And
better
as an
question.
employee of your company,
As an
as your
employee of my
employer,
company.
as
Okay.
your
All right.
employee, yes. Um, I'd love to know. Imagine you are the CEO of a company
Imagine done. Imagined.
that is facing financial difficulties.
I don't know.
Imagine
That feels a bit
done.
feels a bit loaded. Feels a bit loaded. Okay.
You have the choice of either laying off a large number of employees or taking a pay cut yourself to keep the company afloat. Do you prioritize your own financial interests or the well-being of your employees?
Well-being of my employees, 100%. And that's like no, and that is selfish. My answer because it's like if I uh pay cut my employees, they would leave me. All my good employees anyway would leave me. They'd take jobs other places. I know that because I worked with smart people before, and they're not gonna fuck around and stay if you're being an idiot. And that would be a temporary fix. Like I would be able to make more money for a short period, or make the same money for a short period, but the company would fail. So, yeah, that's not even a difficult question. I would definitely take a pay cut, value my employees, because if I believe in the company, which I would hope that I wouldn't be in a company that I don't believe in, then my thoughts would be I need these people to succeed, and that's been my sort of mentality around my company now. Like, I don't have much money to go around, but I'm still happy to like pay what I need to pay, and like I'm working a deficit to try and make this shit work. So I think it's the same shit. You got to small term sacrifice, long term gain.
Alright, I'm happy.
Yeah. You should be. You should be. Your job is secure. And for context, the reason I bought her in now is because I didn't want people to be like, you only hired her because she's your sister at a later point. Like I wanted to give her the opportunity to put in the groundwork now. So like she built this company from nothing, kind of stuff. So like if she's integral to the company now, then no fucking intern can talk shit later in the day. They can speculate, but they'd be wrong, wouldn't they? Look at episode 1. Look at who's in the chair. Where it all started. She's the reason I'm sad. So arguably you could
Hold up.
arguably you could attest the whole clothing label. No, just kidding. No, I actually think that that's something I could talk about like quickly. Is like I feel like a lot of people don't really have like a good relationship with their family or their like brother or siblings or whatever, and like
Yeah, that's true.
I think that like we uniquely do for some reason. I think there was like a point where we like every old kids like squabble or whatever, but like yeah, there was like sort of a point where I took that like older brother protector kind of vibe, and then ever since then it's just been smooth sailing, and we just sort of look at all these like other relationships around of like people that like hate this. I just don't understand like why would you hate your executive producer? Just you're just
Why
like,
would you hate someone that could provide free labor?
yeah, why would you hate someone that could support your business for free? It just doesn't make any sense. You're just like, look at the economics of it, bro. You're just so small-minded. So, you gotta think big picture. You gotta think big picture, team. And that is probably the note that I want to leave it on. So I'm really hoping that we've got enough to make it last the full hour. And if we don't, blame it on the guest. Blame it on the guest, of which there was no guest. So blame it on me, I guess. But yeah, I feel like, to be fair, we got an hour 30 in the last one. So, really, you got a free 30 in the last one. You lose 30 in this one, I'm not sure how much of this we have to cut. I'm pretty happy with all of it, but my executive producer is shaking her head. So there's at least a few parts we have to cut, shock horror. It happens. But yeah, I just wanted to thank everyone for tuning in again to my show, or tuning in for the first time more likely, or, tuning in for a 2-minute piece and then skipping to the end, which is also possible. I don't know why you'd skip to the end. You probably just click off the video. But yeah, anyways, if you did make it this far, I run a clothing label, S.AD Collection. Please check it out. Website in the description, probably. And then also, I've got my socials. I'm s.ad.ventures on most platforms. So that's Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and I tried Twitter, but apparently got banned straight away. So it's just really Elon's fucking some shit up there. Anyways, don't want to get into that. But yeah. So that's the platforms I'm on. Check me out. like and subscribe. Obviously, I'm on Spotify as well. So if you're watching this, or Apple Music, maybe if I've managed to work out how to get it onto Apple Music, hopefully there's an intro music. Maybe there's some outro music. If there isn't, give me some feedback. I'd love to hear some feedback. Comments is good. Please don't, just abuse me in the comments. I mean, I will take abuse in the comments because I know that it's good for the algorithm. Like, more comments is good, but just if you'd be nicer. Yeah, okay. And yeah, that is me. I'm gonna drop the. I can't drop the mic. It's too expensive. I don't have the kind of money that these ballers have. I'm gonna place the mic down very gently, and I'm gonna wave goodbye. So thank you guys. Been a pleasure.